The slap landed so hard that even the cutlery on nearby tables rattled. An entire diner full of morning regulars froze in disbelief, as the tall biker sneered down at the frail old man he had just struck. An 81-year-old veteran, seated alone in the corner booth, with nothing but a steaming cup of black coffee and the quiet dignity of a man who had seen more battles than the tattooed stranger towering over him. Gasps rose, but no one moved. The injustice hung in the air like smoke, heavy, suffocating, impossible to ignore. The old man did not lift a hand in defense. He didn't shout. He didn't plead. His thin, weathered face turned back toward the window, as if he had long since learned that silence could be more powerful than retaliation. His cheek, reddened by the blow, burned not with humiliation, but with a steady reminder that he had endured far worse under far darker skies. The biker cursed him, spat insults about age and weakness, daring him to react. Yet the veteran's hands, calloused and steady, never left the chipped porcelain mug. The weight of his calm seemed almost unnatural in contrast to the storm before him. Every eye in that diner was locked on the confrontation. Waitresses stood frozen with their trays, customers shrank back into their booths, the air thick with cowardice and shame. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something. Anything to break the tension. No one stepped forward. Not a single soul spoke up. The silence of the bystanders was deafening. To understand his silence, one had to understand the man himself. His name was Samuel Dwyer, though most people who knew him simply called him Sam. 81 years carved deep lines into his face, but his posture still carried the quiet authority of a man who once wore a uniform that demanded discipline, sacrifice, and endurance. Sam had served in 2 wars, carrying the memories of jungles where the air smelled of rot and gunpowder, and deserts where sand filled every breath, every fold of skin, every prayer whispered in the heat of endless sun. He had buried friends in foreign soil, far from their mothers, their sweethearts, their children. He had returned home with medals in a drawer he never opened, and scars both visible and unseen. Every morning he came to this diner, a small place with faded red booths and the smell of bacon grease baked into its walls, not for company but for routine. Routine kept the ghosts quiet. Coffee at 7, eggs at 7:30, silence until the world woke around him. The younger crowd barely noticed him, just another old man lost in time. Yet for Sam, each moment was sacred. A chance to remind himself he had survived what so many had not. On this morning, that sacred silence was shattered. The biker, broad-shouldered leather vest reeking of gasoline and arrogance, had entered like a storm, loud, entitled, demanding space. He didn't recognize Sam, didn't care who he was. He saw only a frail figure occupying a booth he wanted. And when Sam's slow, steady refusal to move met his boiling temper, violence followed. The first slap had been meant to humiliate, to remind everyone in that diner that weakness had no place in the presence of swagger and rage. But the blow accomplished something else entirely. It revealed the hollowness of the aggressor. Sam did not fight back. He did not rise. He did not even let his coffee spill. Instead, his silence grew heavier, thicker, filling the room with a weight no one dared break. His lack of reaction was not fear. It was defiance in its purest form. The biker laughed, circling like a predator mocking prey, but something about Sam's stillness unsettled him. The old man's eyes, pale blue and unwavering, met his with a calmness that carried echoes of gunfire, of trenches, of long nights waiting for dawn. It was the gaze of someone who had seen men far more dangerous than this leather-clad bully and lived to tell the tale. That look said more than any fist ever could. The onlookers felt it too, though none admitted it. Shame pricked their consciences as they stayed glued to their seats. A waitress bit her lip so hard it bled. Fear chained them all. Sam simply reached into his jacket pocket, not for a weapon but for a worn, folded photograph. His fingers brushed the creased edges, and he set it gently on the table. The photo showed him decades younger, in uniform, arm draped around 2 fellow soldiers. Both men were long gone now, their names etched into memorial walls that families still touched with trembling hands. Sam looked at that photo now, not for comfort, but as a reminder of the code he lived by. A soldier doesn't bow to bullies. A soldier endures even in silence. But Sam was not entirely alone, though no one in the diner knew it yet. His son Michael was 22 minutes away. Michael was not just a son, but an army officer, shaped by his father's quiet lessons of dignity and resolve. He had inherited the same steady gaze, the same unyielding principles, but he carried them with the strength of youth and the authority of rank. When Sam's phone had buzzed earlier with a short message, heading to the diner, be there soon, he hadn't realized how soon that presence would matter. As the biker's insults grew louder, the tension in the diner thickened. The man mocked Sam's age, his frailty, his silence. He demanded acknowledgement, demanded that the old man show some fear, yet Sam gave him nothing. The biker, desperate to assert dominance, slammed his fist on the table, rattling the untouched eggs on the plate. But Sam's hand remained steady on the photograph, his other hand cradling the mug. The silence was unbearable now. It was not submission. It was judgment, and the biker felt it like a mirror reflecting his own emptiness. Rage burned hotter in him because he could not break the old man's spirit. The room itself seemed to turn against him, every eye silently condemning, though no one spoke. Then, the door swung open. The sound of boots on linoleum carried a weight all its own. Michael entered, uniform crisp, bearing the unmistakable aura of command. He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to ask what had happened. His eyes fell instantly on his father's reddened cheek, then on the biker standing over him. The silence that followed was different now, charged, electric, waiting for judgment. Michael crossed the room with steady, measured steps. Every bystander who had remained frozen now straightened, as if the arrival of this soldier restored something they had lost in themselves. The biker shifted uneasily, his bravado flickering. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Michael stopped at the booth, placed a hand gently on his father's shoulder, then turned his full gaze on the man who had struck him. There was no shouting, no threat, just a single quiet statement that cut sharper than any blade. You touched the wrong man. The weight of those words filled the room. They were not loud, but they carried the force of generations, of sacrifices made, of honor earned. The biker stumbled over his response, his arrogance crumbling in the presence of something he could not match. The trucker in the corner finally rose, emboldened. The waitress set down her tray and stood taller. One by one, the patrons who had been silent began to shift, to rise, to add their presence to the moment. No one needed to shout. No one needed violence. The biker looked around and saw an entire room silently standing against him. Their silence no longer fear but solidarity. Michael stepped closer, his voice calm but unyielding. My father has fought for freedoms you will never understand. His silence is stronger than your noise. And in this place, respect will be given, whether you want to give it or not. The biker, chest heaving, found himself with no allies, no audience, only condemnation. His fists unclenched, his sneer faltered. And slowly, almost pathetically, he backed away from the booth, muttering curses that carried no weight anymore. The door slammed behind him as he fled into the morning, smaller than he had ever seemed. What remained in the diner was not relief but reverence. Michael helped his father to his feet, but Sam shook his head, insisting he was fine. His hand lingered on the photograph, folding it gently and tucking it back into his pocket. The room was silent still, but now it was the silence of respect. Every patron bowed their heads in their own way, acknowledging what they had witnessed. It is the echo of battles already won. Later, as father and son walked out together, the entire diner rose to their feet. No applause, no cheers, just the quiet power of collective honor. The biker had left behind nothing but the memory of his cowardice, while Sam left behind a lesson carved into the hearts of strangers. That true strength often wears no armor but dignity. Outside, the morning sun spilled golden light across the cracked pavement. Michael glanced at his father, seeing not fragility but unshakable resilience. Sam said nothing more, because nothing more was needed. The silence between them was sacred, an inheritance passed from one soldier to another. The story spread beyond that diner in whispers, in retellings, in social media posts that carried lines spoken in calm defiance. You touched the wrong man. A soldier's silence is not weakness. They became reminders that respect is not optional, that honor cannot be stolen, and that dignity is the last weapon of the truly strong. And to those who heard it, who felt the sting of outrage at the slap and the swell of pride at the resolution, the message lingered. Not all battles are fought on battlefields. Some are fought in diners, in silence, in moments when the world holds its breath and waits to see who will rise. So the invitation remains, to reflect, to honor, to remember the quiet warriors among us. If you are hearing this story now, share where you are listening from. Share what it means to you. And if it stirred something in your heart, stand with us in honoring the silent heroes. And join for more stories that remind us that respect once given can never be forgotten.